It's spring, the daffodils are out, the sun is out. Come and join us for the latest episode of the Self-Sufficient Year.
Welcome to English Country Life. My name's Fiona, and together with my husband Hugh, we run a small holding homestead here in Lincolnshire in the UK. March, it's really one of those months where one day the weather is cold, like I've got my gloves on today, but other days we've got glorious sunshine and it's beautifully warm, and that means everything is waking up. The trees are budding and all the plants are starting to grow. So what are we up to this month? Well, the first thing is Hugh's taking advantage of the trees starting to bud, and he is grafting some pears and plums so that we can get the right varieties for us. I'm doing the last exercise in hedge cutting before the birds start to nest, because I need to get hedges down to the right level so we can maintain them during the year. Hugh's also potting on the chillies and the tomatoes that you saw last month so that we're ready to plant them out in April. And I am doing some weeding down in the vegetable patch, because not only are the things which we want to grow growing, we've got those dastardly weeds growing too. So come and join us and let's get started.
Let's talk fruit. It's fruit season and it's the perfect time for producing new fruit trees. So, first off, a success story. This is one of our apples, and we're still eating fresh apples from last year, and that's so important to us. Historically, people stored their own fruit, and that's what we're trying to do. But in order to do that, you have to have the right varieties grown locally, stored well, picked at the right time. And we've got pretty close to that with our apples by producing our own apple trees by a process called grafting. We've done a whole series on how to graft. I'll put a link up above. And the process of grafting is, in effect, you take a cutting at the right time of year, this time of year, from the right tree that you want, that has the right pollination qualities, the right keeping qualities, the right taste, the right flavour, all of those good things. If you take a cutting, it's genetically identical to the original tree. If you plant a seed, it isn't. It's been pollinated by another tree and it's a crossbreed. And what you then do is join that cutting to a rootstock, and the rootstock that you choose dictates how tall, how vigorous, how wide growing that cutting becomes. It's a very simple process. It was done by people for themselves for centuries, but it produces the right kinds of fruit, and you can select the fruit you need for the qualities that you want. And we've done a lot of that in apples, and as you can see, we're getting really good at keeping our apple fruit, although our great friend Kev over at English Homestead is going to send us some cuttings from one of his trees that has amazing qualities, and we are going to graft those onto our own rootstocks this year, because I really want to get some of those so that our keeping apples will last all the way through April and maybe even into May in the right kind of year. Now, what we don't have as much of is pears and plums. Fiona absolutely adores pears. I love drying plums. Dried plums can be used in place of raisins and sultanas and currants, and they need a different type of rootstock, but the process is exactly the same. Take a cutting, take a rootstock, join the two together, tape them up, and in 2 or 3 years you'll have a young, vigorous tree that has exactly the right qualities you want in terms of flavour, in terms of keeping qualities, and you can plant it wherever you want. So I think learning how to graft is an enormous part of learning how to be self-sufficient. It saves a huge amount of money from buying from specialist nurseries, and means you get exactly the right kinds of trees that you need.
This is our front gateway, and this is the hedge line which actually separates the gateway from our garden. I've actually cut it down, and I've cut it down significantly because this hedge has got out of hand in recent years. It's got so high and become really, really difficult to maintain. And quite frankly, I haven't got time to constantly get platforms out to cut it down. So I've done a major hacking exercise on it. Now I had to do it now and take this final opportunity because it's starting to leaf up. Now this is lilac and it does actually start to throw leaves out at the back end of March and the beginning of April. So now at the start of March is when I need to do this exercise. I can actually see that there's no birds nesting in there because I'm not going to do a major job to bring the height of this down while I could be disturbing nesting birds. So once I've made sure there's no nests in there, I got the chainsaw out. Now you might be wondering why the chainsaw, because that's a bit brutal. Well, to be quite frankly, I just don't have the time. I could get my little handle opposite and make a beautifully neat job on a little handsaw and do it properly, but I haven't got the time. And that means getting my jelly bean suit on.
If you've been following along, you'll know that we grow some plants by sowing seeds very early in the year. Things like peppers and chilies, we have to sow early because they're truly perennials, but we grow them as annuals because they don't overwinter very well for us. You can overwinter them if you've got a large heated greenhouse or a heated conservatory. We don't really have those facilities. But what we do with things like that, and also with tomatoes, is we sow the seeds in January, we single them up in February, we keep them on warm south-facing windows in the warm house, and come March, really, they've overgrown their modules, and if we don't pot them on, they won't have enough space for their roots and they won't grow as well as they could. So we put them into 9 centimetre, 3-inch pots round about March time. We'll grow them on a little bit further until the risk of frost has passed. And I know sowing seeds that early worries some people, but take a look. This is one of our tomato plants. It's perfectly healthy, perfectly happy, grown on in a south-facing window. By contrast, we did have some plants left over, and I just put the seed tray into this greenhouse. This is an unheated greenhouse, and that's what they look like. The frost has got them, so we do have to keep them indoors until the risk of frost has passed. But after that, we can plant them out in one of the greenhouses, get a lovely long growing season, save money on plants, save money on food. So that's what we do.
Here in the vegetable patch, as I mentioned, these dastardly weeds are starting to show their face. Now there's 2 different areas that I need to weed. I've got these beds which have got nothing in them at the moment other than those horrible weeds, and I've got some beds that have got some overwintered plant like these. These are our garlic which have been in since autumn. Now there's 2 different tools generally I use for this exercise. I've got a Dutch hoe, and I'll show you how I use that, but that is what I would use on this bed which has got nothing in it. But where I've got things which have been overwintering and I need to be a lot more precise, I personally prefer to use an onion hoe. I could use the Dutch hoe, but I think the onion hoe works better for me, and it may be a tool you've never seen before. But let me show you the Dutch hoe first. The Dutch hoe is the most common garden hoe. If you're already a gardener or a homesteader, you'll recognise this tool. It is long handled and designed to be used while standing, and it's got a sharp, wide and open blade on the end. It's primarily designed so that the blade cuts the weeds away from its roots by skimming just below the surface. Now for me, I then turn the blade over and use it to drag the weeds back towards me so that I can pick them out of the soil and just remove them. I find that the Dutch hoe is the best weeding tool for me in large spaces where I don't need precision. In the garlic bed, I prefer to use the onion hoe. Now this is a tool you may not have seen before, and unlike the Dutch hoe, the onion hoe is designed to be used as a hand tool, which means it's much more precise. Just like the Dutch hoe, it's got a sharp blade which is designed to cut those weeds away from their roots, but unlike the Dutch hoe, you do this by drawing the blade towards you. By using both the Dutch hoe and the onion hoe, I can make sure that our vegetables and fruit for the next year are not choked by weeds, and all of this is without the use of any chemicals which would leave a residue on our food.
Well, that was March in the self-sufficient year, and I think we're starting to feel the turn. The daffs are out, we're getting some warmer sunny days, but we're still getting some hard frosts. I'm looking forward to April, where the soil will be warmer, we'll be planting out, we'll be planting up the greenhouses, and I do need to get this wood split so it benefits from all that warmth and dries out for future winters. If you've enjoyed today's video, can you spare us 5 seconds? Give us a thumbs up down below, it really helps the channel out. If there's topics you'd like to see us cover on self-sufficiency, please leave us a comment down below, tell us what they are. If it's a quick question, we'll try and answer it. If it's a topic you think we haven't covered, we'll try and make a future video in order to cover it. And if you'd like to see those videos and everything else we do on self-sufficiency, tap on subscribe while you're down there, hit the bell next to it. It's a free service, but you'll get to hear every time we upload a new video. For today, thanks for watching. Come back and see us soon. Take care.